Jordan Ellis, a successful black CEO of Ellis Enterprises, navigates the quaint yet prejudiced town of Maplewood, where his modest lifestyle starkly contrasts his powerful position. As he strives to foster community growth, systemic racism and biased scrutiny intensify, with local authorities like Inspector Marcus Davis targeting him through unfounded financial misconduct allegations. Corrupt elements within the Maplewood Police Department further complicate his fight, embodying deep-seated racial prejudices. Supported by allies such as Ruby Thompson and Officer Lisa Grant, Jordan battles both overt discrimination and covert corruption, escalating tensions and highlighting the pervasive injustices he must overcome. The early morning sun cast a golden hue over Maplewood, a quaint town nestled between rolling hills and dense forests. The streets were quiet, save for the occasional chirping of birds, and the distant hum of traffic from the interstate. Maplewood was the kind of place where everyone knew everyone else's business, where whispers traveled faster than the wind, and where appearances often masked deeper truths. In the heart of this town stood Jordan Ellis, a man whose presence commanded respect beyond the borders of Maplewood. At 48, Jordan was the CEO of Ellis Enterprises, a conglomerate with interests ranging from technology to real estate. Despite his immense wealth and influence, Jordan chose to live modestly in a small, well-kept house on Elm Street, a stark contrast to the sprawling mansions that dotted the neighborhood. His lifestyle reflected his humility. He preferred simple, unassuming clothing and drove an older model sedan, always opting for practicality over luxury. Jordan's mornings began early. He woke before dawn, the soft light of sunrise filtering through his bedroom curtains. His routine was deliberate, a sequence of actions that grounded him before the chaos of his professional life. He brewed a pot of black coffee, savoring the rich aroma as he glanced through the news on his tablet. Today, like every day, he balanced his responsibilities with the same quiet determination that had earned him both admiration and envy. As he dressed, Jordan's thoughts wandered to the upcoming board meeting at Ellis Enterprises. The company had recently faced scrutiny over its environmental practices, and Jordan was determined to steer it back onto a path of integrity and sustainability. He believed in leading by example, a principle that extended beyond his corporate endeavors into his personal life. Descending the stairs, Jordan grabbed his briefcase and stepped outside. The cool morning air was refreshing, a reminder of the world outside the glass towers and boardrooms. He locked his door and made his way to his car, the familiar route taking him through the heart of Maplewood. Today, he decided. He would start his day with a visit to Ruby's Diner, a local establishment known for its hearty breakfasts and welcoming atmosphere. Ruby's was a cornerstone of the community, a place where locals gathered to share stories over stacks of pancakes and steaming cups of coffee. Jordan appreciated the diner's simplicity, its lack of pretension, a stark contrast to the high-stakes environment he navigated daily. Parking his sedan in the usual spot, he walked through the door, greeted by the warm, comforting smell of bacon and freshly baked bread. "Morning, Jordan," called out Ruby Thompson. The diner's owner, and Jordan's longtime friend. Ruby was a vivacious woman in her early 50s, her laughter as infectious as the diner's signature dishes. She wore her hair in a neat bun, her apron stained with the remnants of yesterday's cooking. "Morning, Ruby," Jordan replied with a smile, taking a seat at their favorite booth by the window. The booth was a relic from the diner's opening day, its vinyl seats faded, but still comfortable. Ruby approached with a plate of scrambled eggs and toast, setting it down before him. "Busy day?" she asked, pouring a fresh cup of coffee into his favorite mug. "Always," Jordan admitted, the weight of his responsibilities evident in his tired eyes. "But I need a moment to breathe." Ruby nodded sympathetically, her eyes reflecting a deep understanding. "You know, Maplewood could use more people like you, ones who care about the community and not just profits." Jordan appreciated her sentiment. It was easy to lose sight of his roots amidst the sprawling ambitions of Ellis Enterprises. "I try," he said quietly, stirring his coffee thoughtfully. "Sometimes it feels like I'm fighting against a tide." As they spoke, the diner began to fill with the usual morning crowd, farmers stopping by for breakfast before heading to the fields, teachers grabbing a quick bite before school, and retirees enjoying a leisurely meal. The atmosphere was convivial, a stark contrast to the tense, high-powered meetings Jordan was accustomed to. A young woman entered the diner, her presence immediately noticeable despite the casual setting. She was tall, with tightly coiled hair pulled back into a stylish ponytail, and wore a tailored suit that hinted at both professionalism and authority. Her name was Amara Johnson, the newly appointed district attorney for the county. Amara had moved to Maplewood to oversee a recent surge in criminal activity, her reputation preceding her as a relentless and fair-minded prosecutor. Amara scanned the diner, her eyes landing on Jordan. Without a second thought, she made her way to his booth, pulling out a chair and sitting down with a firm nod. Ruby looked between them, sensing the shift in energy. "Good morning, Amara," Jordan greeted, masking his surprise with his characteristic calm. "Morning, Jordan," Amara replied, her tone polite but direct. "I wanted to discuss the recent developments with Ellis Enterprises. There have been some concerns raised about your company's involvement in local zoning changes." Jordan leaned back, maintaining his composure. "I'm aware of the concerns. We've been working closely with the town council to ensure everything is above board." Amara nodded, her expression unreadable. "That's good to hear. However, there have been allegations of undue influence and potential conflicts of interest. I'm looking to gather more information and would appreciate your cooperation." The conversation was professional, yet beneath the surface lay a current of tension. Jordan knew that his position made him a target for scrutiny, especially in a small town where every move was watched closely. The rise of systemic challenges, racial prejudices, economic disparities, and corruption had created an undercurrent of distrust among the community members. As a successful black executive, Jordan was no stranger to these dynamics, but they intensified in Maplewood, a town grappling with its own identity and prejudices. "Of course, Amara. I'm happy to assist in any way I can," Jordan assured her, his voice steady. "Transparency is important to me, and I want to ensure that Ellis Enterprises is contributing positively to Maplewood." Amara studied him for a moment, her gaze piercing. "I appreciate that, Jordan. Let's keep the lines of communication open. I may have more questions as we proceed." With that, Amara rose and made her way to the counter, leaving Jordan to ponder the implications of their interaction. Ruby watched the exchange, a flicker of concern in her eyes. "She's not going to make this easy for you, is she?" Ruby remarked quietly, placing a plate of fresh fruit between them. Jordan sighed, accepting the fruit gratefully. "No, she isn't. But that's the nature of the job. We have to stand firm, especially when our intentions are good." As the morning progressed, Jordan couldn't shake the feeling of being under a microscope. The subtle glances and hushed conversations among the patrons hinted at underlying tensions. Maplewood was changing, and not everyone was comfortable with the shifts in power and influence. Systemic challenges, particularly those rooted in race and economic status, were becoming more pronounced, creating an atmosphere ripe for conflict. After finishing his breakfast, Jordan stood up, leaving a generous tip on the table. "I should get going," he said to Ruby. "Thank you for the coffee." "Anytime, Jordan," Ruby replied with a warm smile. "Take care." Walking out of Ruby's diner, Jordan felt the weight of the town's expectations pressing down on him. He was a man of privilege and power, yet he chose to live simply, a decision that often left him feeling out of place among his affluent peers. His modest lifestyle was a conscious choice, a way to stay connected to his roots and the community that had supported him from the beginning. But in a town like Maplewood, where status and appearances mattered, his humility sometimes made him vulnerable. As he made his way to his car, parked near the corner, Jordan observed the subtle signs of unrest that had been brewing beneath the town's serene facade. Flyers for community meetings cluttered the bulletin boards, addressing issues like police reform and economic inequality. There was a palpable sense of division, a struggle between progress and tradition that threatened to tear the town apart. Jordan knew that his role extended beyond the boardroom. As one of the few black executives in Maplewood, he carried the burden of representation, the expectation to lead with both strength and compassion. It was a delicate balance, one that required constant vigilance against the prejudices that lingered in the shadows of the town's everyday interactions. Reaching his sedan, Jordan paused for a moment, taking a deep breath. The road ahead was uncertain, filled with challenges that tested both his professional acumen and personal resilience. He had built Ellis Enterprises from the ground up, navigating the complexities of corporate America with determination and integrity. Yet, Maplewood presented a different kind of battlefield, one where societal biases and systemic barriers loomed large. As he drove through the streets, the town began to wake up. Children skipped to school, parents chatted with neighbors, and local businesses opened their doors for the day. Maplewood was a tapestry of stories, each thread woven with its own struggles and triumphs. Jordan felt a surge of responsibility, knowing that his actions could influence the course of the town's future. His phone buzzed with a message from his assistant, reminding him of the board meeting scheduled for later that afternoon. He glanced at the time and adjusted his plans accordingly. Today would require his full attention, not just to address the immediate concerns of his company, but also to navigate the intricate web of community relations that defined Maplewood. As he approached his office building, a modern structure standing in stark contrast to the town's historic charm, Jordan steeled himself for the day ahead inside. The sleek, glass-faceted lobby exuded a sense of professionalism and power. He was greeted by the concierge, who offered a polite nod before directing him to his suite on the top floor. Entering his office, Jordan was met with the familiar sight of his workspace. Neatly organized, with personal touches that made the space his own, family photos, certificates, and a few cherished mementos adorned the shelves and desk. He took a moment to appreciate the balance he had achieved, maintaining both his corporate responsibilities and his personal life with equal dedication. As he settled into his chair, Jordan reflected on the recent changes sweeping through Maplewood. The town was at a crossroads, grappling with issues that demanded thoughtful leadership and unwavering commitment. He knew that the path forward would require more than just business acumen. It would necessitate empathy, resilience, and the ability to bridge divides that seemed insurmountable. The board meeting began promptly, with executives discussing quarterly reports and strategic initiatives. Jordan listened attentively, offering insights and suggestions that reflected his deep understanding of the company's operations and the broader market landscape. His leadership style was inclusive and collaborative, earning him the respect of his colleagues and subordinates alike. However, amidst the routine discussions, the tension from Ruby's earlier conversation with Amara lingered in Jordan's mind. The allegations against Ellis Enterprises were more than mere corporate oversights. They were reflective of the systemic issues that plagued many communities, including Maplewood. The intersection of race, power, and privilege was a delicate one, and Jordan was acutely aware of the fine line he walked in addressing these challenges. As the meeting concluded, Jordan received a call from his legal team. They had uncovered more details regarding the zoning changes and the allegations of undue influence. The situation was escalating, and he needed to prepare a comprehensive response that would not only defend his company, but also address the underlying social tensions. Stepping out of the boardroom, Jordan felt the weight of the day pressing down on him. The challenges ahead were multifaceted, intertwining his personal identity with his professional responsibilities in ways that demanded both strategic thinking and heartfelt empathy. He knew that the path forward would be fraught with obstacles, but he was determined to navigate them with integrity and grace. Returning to his office, Jordan began drafting a response to the allegations, carefully considering each word and implication. He understood that his actions could set a precedent, influencing not only the future of Ellis Enterprises, but also the broader conversation about race and power in Maplewood. It was a responsibility he took seriously, one that required both courage and humility. As the day wore on, the sun began its descent, casting long shadows across the town. Maplewood, with all its complexities and contradictions, stood as a microcosm of the larger societal struggles at play. Jordan Ellis, a man of wealth and influence, yet living a life of modesty and humility, embodied the very tensions that defined the town's current state. He looked out of his office window, watching as the town transformed under the evening light. The challenges were immense, but so was his resolve. Jordan knew that true leadership wasn't about wielding power from a distance. It was about engaging with the community, understanding their struggles, and working together to forge a path toward equality and justice. In that moment, Jordan Ellis made a silent promise to himself and to Maplewood. He would use his position not just to drive profits, but to drive change. He would confront the systemic prejudices that hindered progress, and he would strive to create a legacy of true leadership and compassion. The journey ahead was uncertain, but with each step, he felt a renewed sense of purpose, ready to face whatever challenges lay in wait. Jordan Ellis stepped out of his sedan, the crisp morning air filling his lungs as he approached the entrance of Maplewood Community Center. The building, an aging structure with peeling paint and flickering lights, stood as a hub for local gatherings and town meetings. Today, it was hosting a public forum on the recent zoning changes that had sparked controversy within the community. As he entered the center, the sounds of murmured conversations and the clinking of coffee cups greeted him. The room was filled with residents from all walks of life, their faces reflecting a mix of curiosity, concern, and skepticism. At the front, a long table was set up with microphones and a podium, where Amara Johnson, the district attorney, stood ready to address the crowd. Jordan found a seat near the back, his presence often unnoticed in the sea of attendees. He wore a simple navy blazer over a white shirt, his attire unassuming yet professional. Despite his wealth and influence, Jordan preferred blending in, avoiding the spotlight that his position might otherwise afford him. Amara began her presentation, outlining the recent developments and the role of Ellis Enterprises in the town's expansion plans. Her tone was firm, her words carefully chosen to convey authority and transparency. Ellis Enterprises has been a cornerstone of Maplewood's economic growth, she stated. But recent actions have raised concerns about transparency and fairness in our local governance. As she spoke, Jordan observed the reactions around him. Some nodded in agreement, while others exchanged uneasy glances. The underlying tension was palpable, a mix of progress and resistance clashing in the confined space. After her presentation, Amara opened the floor to questions. A middle-aged man with a stern expression stood up first, his voice edged with frustration. "Ms. Johnson, how can we trust that Ellis Enterprises isn't using its influence to bypass proper zoning regulations? We've seen too many instances where big businesses get away with cutting corners." Amara responded calmly, "I understand your concerns. That's why I'm here to ensure that all companies, regardless of their size or influence, adhere to the same standards. Transparency is key, and we're committed to holding everyone accountable." Before another question could be asked, a young woman stood up, her demeanor defiant. "What about the people of color in Maplewood? How do we know this isn't just another way to push out minority communities for profit?" The room fell silent, the question hanging heavy in the air. Jordan felt a familiar pang of frustration. He had anticipated such underlying tensions, aware of the systemic biases that persisted, despite his efforts to bridge gaps. Rising from his seat, he took a deep breath, his calm exterior belying the storm brewing within him. "Excuse me?" Jordan interjected, his voice steady and clear. "I believe in the importance of community and transparency. Ellis Enterprises has always aimed to contribute positively to Maplewood, ensuring that growth benefits everyone. If there are specific concerns, I'm here to listen and address them directly." A murmur spread through the crowd, a mixture of surprise and approval. The young woman who had spoken earlier stared at him, her expression unreadable. Amara shot Jordan a disapproving glance, a silent reminder of his role in the unfolding drama. Another attendee, an older gentleman with graying hair, spoke up. "Mr. Ellis, how can we be sure that your intentions are genuine? There's a history here of marginalized communities being sidelined in favor of profit." Jordan met the man's gaze, his own eyes reflecting a deep-seated resolve. "I understand the mistrust, and I don't take it lightly. My goal is to work collaboratively with the community to ensure that development is inclusive and equitable. We've implemented several initiatives aimed at supporting local businesses and providing opportunities for all residents." The young woman nodded slowly, her demeanor softening slightly. "It's not just about business, though. It's about people feeling safe and valued in their own homes." Jordan felt a surge of determination. "Absolutely, safety and inclusivity are paramount. If there are specific areas where you feel we're falling short, please let me know. I'm committed to making things right." As he spoke, Jordan couldn't help but notice the subtle shifts in the room. Some faces showed genuine interest, while others remained skeptical, the scars of past injustices still fresh in their minds. He knew that words alone wouldn't erase the deep-seated biases, but he hoped that his willingness to engage openly would be a step in the right direction. After the session, as attendees began to disperse, Jordan was approached by Karen Mitchell, a local store manager known for her outspoken nature. She was a middle-aged black woman with a no-nonsense attitude, her posture exuding both strength and weariness. "Jordan," Karen greeted him, her voice a mix of warmth and guardedness. I saw your comments earlier. It's good to see you taking a stand. Thank you, Karen, Jordan replied, offering a genuine smile. I believe in the importance of addressing these concerns head-on. Karen sighed, her eyes reflecting the fatigue of someone who has seen too many promises go unfulfilled. It's just hard sometimes. People see a CEO, a wealthy man, and they automatically assume you're part of the problem. They forget that not all of us in positions of power are the same. Jordan placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. I understand, and I'm working to change that perception. It's not easy, but it's necessary. As Karen walked away, Jordan felt a mixture of hope and frustration. He was determined to make a difference, yet the systemic biases and prejudices seemed like an insurmountable barrier. The weight of his dual identity, successful CEO and member of a marginalized community, was a constant balancing act, one that required both resilience and humility. Later that afternoon, Jordan returned to Ellis Enterprises, his mind still grappling with the morning's events. The sleek office space was a far cry from Maplewood's community center, the walls adorned with modern art and the air filled with the hum of productivity. He sat at his desk, reviewing reports and strategizing for the next board meeting, but his thoughts kept drifting back to the questions and criticisms he had faced earlier. His phone buzzed with a message from his assistant, reminding him of a lunch meeting with potential investors. He glanced at it, feeling the familiar pressure of meeting expectations and maintaining the company's reputation. He composed himself, pushing aside the lingering frustrations from the community center and focused on the tasks at hand. As he prepared for the meeting, Jordan couldn't ignore the subtle undercurrents of tension that seemed to follow him wherever he went. Whether in the intimate setting of Ruby's diner or the polished confines of his office, the shadows of prejudice and bias loomed large, threatening to undermine his efforts to foster genuine progress. During the lunch meeting, Jordan maintained his professional demeanor, presenting the company's latest ventures with confidence and clarity. The investors, impressed by his knowledge and strategic vision, offered their support, assuring him of the company's continued growth and success. Despite the positive outcome, Jordan couldn't shake the feeling of being torn between two worlds, the one that admired and respected him, and the one that questioned and distrusted his intentions. After the meeting, as he walked back to his office, Jordan passed by the town's police department, a place that held a complicated significance for him. While he had a working relationship with some officers, the systemic biases within law enforcement were a source of ongoing concern. Today, however, there was no interaction, just the sight of uniformed officers going about their duties, oblivious to the internal conflicts that simmered beneath the surface. Returning to his office, Jordan was met with a call from Inspector Marcus Davis, a colleague who had recently been assigned to oversee investigations related to corporate misconduct. Marcus was a tall, imposing figure, known for his unwavering dedication to justice, but also for his rigid adherence to protocol, sometimes at the expense of empathy. Jordan, Marcus began, his tone clipped and professional. I need access to your financial records from the past 6 months. There have been some irregularities flagged in the zoning permits. Jordan felt a familiar sense of resistance rising within him. Of course, Marcus. I'll have my team compile the necessary documents by the end of the day. I'll have my office reach out if we need anything else, Marcus replied, ending the call. As the door closed behind him, Jordan leaned back in his chair, exhaling slowly. The request felt like an encroachment, a reminder of the delicate balance he had to maintain between his professional obligations and his personal integrity. The systemic challenges he faced were not just external, they were embedded within the very institutions he interacted with daily. Determined to rise above the mounting pressures, Jordan decided to take a walk around the office building. The elevator ride down was swift, the modern glass facade of Ellis Enterprises reflecting the sunlight in dazzling patterns. Stepping out onto the bustling street, he navigated through the throng of people, businessmen hurrying to their next meeting, parents pushing strollers, and teenagers loitering by the corner store. As he walked, Jordan couldn't help but notice the subtle ways in which prejudice manifested in Maplewood. A store owner eyed him with thinly veiled skepticism, likely associating his wealth and status with entitlement rather than recognizing his genuine efforts to contribute positively to the community. Even as he passed by, conversations seemed to pause, eyes lingering a moment too long, judgments unspoken but palpable. At Maplewood Park, A small green space with a playground and a pond, Jordan decided to take a moment to breathe. Children laughed and played, their innocent joy a stark contrast to the complexities of adult interactions. He sat on a bench, observing the simple pleasures around him, feeling the weight of his responsibilities pressed down even harder. His thoughts were interrupted by the approach of Officer Lisa Grant, a young black woman in uniform who had recently joined the Maplewood Police Department. Unlike some of her predecessors, Officer Grant was known for her empathy and commitment to community policing, striving to bridge gaps and build trust. "Jordan," she greeted him, her tone friendly yet respectful. "Mind if I join you?" "Not at all, Officer Grant," Jordan replied, gesturing to the empty space beside him. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment before Officer Grant spoke. "I heard about the concerns at the community center this morning. How are you holding up?" Jordan offered a small smile. "It's part of the job, I suppose, challenging but necessary." Officer Grant nodded thoughtfully. "I admire your commitment. It's not easy being in your position, especially with the added pressures of navigating systemic biases." Jordan felt a surge of gratitude mixed with sorrow. "Thank you, Lisa. It's something I'm constantly working on, both professionally and personally." They sat together, sharing a moment of mutual understanding. Despite the challenges, there were allies in unexpected places, people who saw beyond titles and appearances to the person beneath. It was a small solace, but it reinforced Jordan's determination to persevere. As they talked, a commotion erupted near the playground. A group of teenagers, their faces flushed with excitement and rebellious energy, began to harass a young boy on the swings. The boy, visibly distressed, tried to defend himself, but the teenagers continued their taunts. "Hey, leave him alone," Officer Grant intervened, stepping between the boy and the group. "What's going on here?" One of the teenagers sneered. "Just having some fun. Why don't you mind your own business, officer?" Jordan watched the scene unfold, a familiar frustration gnawing at him. The dynamics of power and prejudice were evident, teenagers pushing boundaries, a young boy trying to assert his dignity, and Officer Grant standing her ground with authority and compassion. "Is everything all right?" Jordan asked, unable to ignore the injustice playing out before him. Officer Grant shook her head. "These kids sometimes act out, but I'm handling it. It's tough, especially when you're trying to build trust in a community that's already skeptical." The teenagers, sensing the presence of a high-profile figure, decided to escalate the situation. "You think you can stop us because you're special?" one of them taunted, trying to provoke a reaction. Jordan felt his blood boil, but he kept his composure. "Violence isn't the answer. Let's all calm down and resolve this peacefully." The teen glared, clearly attempting to intimidate him. "Whatever, man, we're out of here." As the group dispersed, Officer Grant turned to Jordan, her expression weary but resolute. "It's incidents like these that highlight the ongoing struggles we face, prejudices, assumptions. It's all part of a bigger problem." Jordan nodded, his frustration tempered by his understanding of the complexities involved. "It's a cycle that needs to be broken, Lisa. We have to keep pushing for change, even when it feels like we're fighting a losing battle." Officer Grant offered a small smile. "Together, we can make a difference, one step at a time." As Jordan watched Officer Grant walk away, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. The path ahead was fraught with challenges, but moments like these reinforced his commitment to fostering genuine change within Maplewood. The systemic prejudices and biases were deeply entrenched, but he believed in the power of empathy, understanding, and relentless determination to overcome them. Returning to his car, Jordan glanced at his reflection in the rearview mirror. The man staring back was a blend of strength and vulnerability, a testament to the complexities of his journey. He knew that maintaining his calm and professionalism was essential, not just for his own sake, but for the community that looked up to him as a leader and a symbol of progress. As he drove home, the sun began its descent, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. The peaceful evening was a stark contrast to the internal conflicts he navigated daily. He thought about the conversations, the subtle biases, and the overt challenges that defined his interactions. Each encounter was a reminder of the work that still needed to be done, the battles that were yet to be won. Pulling into his modest home, Jordan took a moment to appreciate the simplicity of his surroundings. The house on Elm Street was a sanctuary, a place where he could shed the pressures of his professional life and reconnect with his true self. Inside, the warmth of home enveloped him, a stark contrast to the cold scrutiny of the outside world. As he prepared dinner, Jordan reflected on the day's events. The prejudice and biases he faced were not just obstacles, they were callings, driving him to push harder for equity and justice. He knew that change wouldn't come overnight, but each small victory, each meaningful conversation, was a step toward a more inclusive and understanding community. Later that evening, as he sat down to eat, his phone buzzed with a message from his legal team regarding the ongoing investigations. The complexities of his role were becoming more apparent, the lines between personal integrity and professional duty blurring. He took a deep breath, steeling himself for the challenges ahead. "Thank you for standing up, Jordan," a voice said from the doorway. It was Monica Ellis, his wife, entering the kitchen with a warm smile. "I saw the community center meeting this morning. You handled it well." Jordan returned her smile, grateful for her unwavering support. "Thanks, Monica. It's never easy, but it's worth it." Monica approached, placing a comforting hand on his shoulder. "I'm proud of you. Just remember to take care of yourself too." He nodded, appreciating her concern. "I will. Thanks for always being here." As they shared a quiet meal, Jordan felt a sense of calm settle over him. The day had been a microcosm of the larger struggles he faced, a reflection of the systemic issues that demanded his attention and action. Yet, amidst the challenges, there were moments of connection and understanding, threads of hope weaving through the fabric of his daily life. After dinner, Jordan and Monica settled into the living room, the soft glow of the lamp casting a warm light over the space. Jordan's thoughts drifted to the upcoming challenges, the systemic biases he was determined to dismantle. He knew that his journey was far from over, that the path to true equality and justice was long and arduous. But with Monica by his side, and allies like Officer Grant and Ruby supporting him, he felt a glimmer of hope. As he sat there, contemplating the future, Jordan made a silent vow to continue fighting for a better Maplewood, one where everyone was seen and valued for who they truly were. The road ahead was uncertain, but his resolve was unwavering. He would navigate the complexities with grace and determination, striving to leave a lasting impact on the community he loved. In the quiet of the evening, as Maplewood settled into the peaceful night, Jordan Ellis prepared himself for the battles yet to come, his heart filled with both the weight of responsibility and the enduring hope for a brighter, more inclusive future. As the days turned into weeks, the scrutiny on Ellis Enterprises intensified. The morning meetings were no longer just about quarterly reports and strategic initiatives. They now included heated debates and pointed questions about the company's ethical practices and its role in Maplewood's development. Jordan Ellis found himself at the epicenter of a storm he had anticipated but never fully prepared for. One crisp Tuesday morning, as Jordan reviewed his emails in his modest office, his phone rang with an unfamiliar number flashing on the screen. He glanced at it, noting the area code was local, yet he didn't recognize the number. With a deep breath, he answered. "Mr. Ellis, this is Detective Samuel Daniels from the Maplewood Police Department," the voice on the other end began, formal and unyielding. "I need to speak with you regarding some irregularities we've uncovered in your company's recent zoning applications." Jordan felt a knot tighten in his stomach. Detective Daniels was known for his stern demeanor and unwavering adherence to protocol. Unlike Officer Grant, who had shown empathy and understanding, Daniels exuded an air of rigidity that often bordered on hostility. "Of course, Detective, how can I assist you?" Jordan replied, striving to maintain his composure. "We have reason to believe that there may have been some discrepancies in the permits submitted by Ellis Enterprises," Daniels stated. "We need to conduct a thorough investigation to ensure compliance with all local regulations." Jordan nodded, even though Daniels couldn't see him. "I assure you, Detective, Ellis Enterprises operates with the highest level of integrity. I'm more than willing to provide any documentation or access you require." There was a brief pause on the line before Daniels spoke again. "We'll need to schedule an appointment to review your records. Please expect our team to arrive later this week." "Understood. I look forward to cooperating fully," Jordan replied, hanging up the phone with a lingering sense of unease. As the day progressed, the tension within the office was palpable. Employees whispered in hushed tones, casting furtive glances towards Jordan's office, aware of the impending investigation. Jordan moved through his duties with a measured calm, his mind racing to anticipate the challenges ahead. He knew that the investigation could potentially expose deeper issues within the company, issues he had worked tirelessly to address and rectify. During lunch, Jordan met with Ruby Thompson at their usual booth in Ruby's diner. The cozy establishment was a sanctuary from the escalating tensions of his professional life. Ruby greeted him with her trademark warm smile, but her eyes betrayed a flicker of concern. "You look like you've got the weight of the world on your shoulders, Jordan," Ruby remarked, placing a plate of scrambled eggs and toast in front of him. Jordan sighed, pushing a strand of hair behind his ear. "It's the investigation. Ruby, Detective Daniels is looking into our zoning applications, and I fear it's only the beginning." Ruby leaned in, her expression serious. "You know, sometimes these things aren't just about what's on paper. There might be people who have something to gain by digging up dirt." Jordan nodded thoughtfully. "I'm aware, that's why I'm trying to be as transparent as possible. But I worry about the implications if there's more to this than just regulatory compliance." Just then, Karen Mitchell approached their table, her demeanor cautious yet supportive. "Jordan, Ruby, mind if I join you for a moment?" "Not at all, Karen," Jordan replied, gesturing to the empty seat. "What's on your mind?" Karen sat down, her eyes darting between Jordan and Ruby. "I overheard some of the staff talking about the investigation. It's causing a lot of anxiety around here. People are worried about their jobs and the company's reputation." Jordan placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "I understand, Karen. We're doing everything we can to handle this appropriately. Please let everyone know that Ellis Enterprises stands for integrity and that we're committed to resolving any issues transparently." Karen nodded, offering a small smile. "I'll make sure to communicate that, thanks, Jordan." As Karen walked away, Ruby reached out, squeezing Jordan's hand gently. "We'll get through this, just like we always do. You're not alone in this fight." Jordan appreciated Ruby's unwavering support. Despite the mounting pressures, he drew strength from the community ties and the genuine friendships he had cultivated in Maplewood. But the underlying tensions and the weight of systemic biases he faced as a black CEO, in a predominantly white town, continued to gnaw at him. Later that afternoon, Jordan received an unexpected visit from Amara Johnson. She entered his office with a composed yet authoritative presence, her sharp eyes assessing him with a mix of skepticism and determination. "Jordan, thank you for agreeing to meet on such short notice," Amara began, closing the door behind her. "I wanted to discuss some additional concerns that have come to light regarding Ellis Enterprises' recent projects." Jordan stood, offering a polite nod. "Of course, Amara, please have a seat." Amara took a seat across from him, placing a folder on his desk. "We've received new information suggesting that there may have been conflicts of interest in the approval process for your latest real estate development. Several council members have reported receiving unsolicited gifts and invitations from your company's representatives." Jordan felt a surge of frustration. "I assure you, Amara, that Ellis Enterprises maintains a strict policy against any form of bribery or undue influence. These allegations are unfounded, and I'd be happy to provide evidence to support that." Amara leaned forward, her gaze unwavering. "Jordan, the fact that these allegations have surfaced is concerning. We have to consider the possibility that this might be part of a larger pattern of behavior that hasn't been addressed until now." Jordan took a deep breath, striving to keep his voice calm. "Amara, if there are genuine concerns, I welcome a thorough investigation, but I believe this is a misunderstanding that can be cleared up quickly." Amara shook her head slightly. "It's not just about clearing up misunderstandings. We need to ensure that all business practices are above reproach. This is part of a broader effort to maintain transparency and accountability within Maplewood's corporate landscape." Jordan stood, signaling the end of the meeting. "I understand the importance of these principles. Amara, please, keep me informed of any developments. I'm committed to cooperating fully." As Amara left, Jordan felt the sting of her dismissive remarks. It wasn't just about the investigation. It was about the pervasive biases that seemed to undermine his efforts to lead with integrity. He couldn't shake the feeling that his race played a role in the scrutiny he was receiving, a sentiment that deepened his resolve to prove his worth beyond societal prejudices. That evening, Jordan returned home to his modest residence on Elm Street. The contrast between his affluent professional life and his humble personal space was stark. a deliberate choice to stay grounded amidst the chaos. As he entered the kitchen, he found Monica Ellis preparing dinner, her presence a comforting reminder of the life he was fighting to protect. "Long day?" Monica asked, her eyes reflecting both concern and support. Jordan nodded, taking a seat at the dining table. "You could say that the investigation is heating up, and it feels like the walls are closing in." Monica placed a hand over his, offering silent support. "You're doing everything you can, Jordan. Don't let the negativity get to you." He offered a grateful smile, appreciating her unwavering belief in him. "Thanks, Monica. It's just tough sometimes, feeling like no matter what I do, there's always someone ready to tear me down." Monica squeezed his hand gently. "I know. But remember, you have people who believe in you and want to see you succeed. Don't lose sight of that." As they shared a quiet meal, the weight of the day pressed down on Jordan. The systemic challenges and prejudices he faced were more than just professional obstacles. They were deeply personal battles that tested his resilience and determination. He knew that overcoming these challenges required not only strategic action, but also unwavering inner strength. The following morning, Jordan decided to take proactive steps to address the escalating tensions. He scheduled a meeting with Officer Lisa Grant, recognizing the importance of building alliances within the community and the police force. He believed that fostering mutual respect and understanding could help mitigate some of the biases and prejudices he faced. Meeting at Maplewood Park, they sat on a bench under the shade of a large oak tree, the peaceful surroundings a stark contrast to the turmoil of their professional lives. "Thank you for meeting with me, Lisa," Jordan began, his tone sincere. "I wanted to discuss how we can work together to improve relations between Ellis Enterprises and the community, as well as the police department." Officer Grant nodded, her expression thoughtful. "I appreciate your initiative, Jordan. There's a lot of distrust out there, and any effort to bridge that gap is valuable. How do you envision us working together?" Jordan leaned forward, his hands clasped in his lap. "I think transparency is key. Regular community meetings, open forums for feedback, and perhaps joint initiatives that benefit both the company and the residents. I want to show that Ellis Enterprises is committed to being a positive force in Maplewood." Grant smiled slightly, a hint of hope in her eyes. "That sounds like a good start. I can help facilitate some of these meetings and ensure that the police department is represented. It's important that the community sees this as a collaborative effort." "Exactly," Jordan agreed. "We need to build trust, not just through words, but through consistent, tangible actions. I'm open to any suggestions you might have as well." As they continued to discuss potential strategies, Jordan felt a sense of optimism. Building alliances with individuals like Officer Grant could help counteract some of the systemic biases and provide a support network that was crucial in navigating the challenges ahead. However, as he left the park that afternoon, a sense of foreboding lingered. He couldn't ignore the subtle signs that something was amiss. An unusual quietness in the streets, the way certain individuals seemed to watch him with narrowed eyes, and the feeling of being constantly under surveillance. The systemic prejudices weren't just abstract concepts, they were tangible barriers that he had to confront daily. Later that evening, as Jordan reviewed the day's events, his phone buzzed with a new message. It was from his assistant, reminding him of the scheduled meeting with the board. He glanced at it, noting the added emphasis on addressing the ongoing investigation and community concerns. Just then, the doorbell rang. Surprised by the unexpected visitor at this hour, Jordan opened the door to find Detective Samuel Daniels standing on his porch, flanked by two uniformed officers. Daniels' stern expression offered no hint of the reason for his late-night visit. "Detective Daniels, is everything all right?" Jordan asked, stepping aside to let him in. Detective Daniels entered without a word, the officers following suit. They moved to the living room, their presence imposing and uninviting. Jordan felt his pulse quicken, the weight of his position and the biases he faced pressing heavily upon him. "Mr. Ellis, we need to speak with you regarding the ongoing investigation," Daniels began, his voice devoid of any pretense. "There have been some additional concerns that require your immediate attention." Jordan maintained his composure, though his mind raced with worry. "Of course, Detective. How can I assist?" Detective Daniels glanced at the officers, then back at Jordan. "We have reason to believe that there may be a breach in your company's security protocols, potentially compromising sensitive information related to the zoning applications. Jordan felt a cold chill run down his spine. That's concerning. What exactly are you suggesting? We've traced some unauthorized access to your corporate network, Daniels explained, his tone accusatory. We need to conduct a thorough review of your internal systems and interview relevant personnel. Jordan stood, his internal struggle evident despite his calm exterior. He knew that cooperating was essential, but the timing felt deliberate, as if someone was trying to undermine his efforts to build trust and transparency within the community. I understand the necessity of a thorough investigation, Jordan replied, his voice steady. I will ensure that all necessary resources are made available to facilitate your work. Detective Daniels nodded, satisfied with the response. Thank you, Mr. Ellis. We'll coordinate with your team to arrange the necessary access and interviews. This needs to be addressed promptly to maintain the integrity of the investigation. As the detectives left, Jordan closed the door, the impact of the encounter leaving him feeling more isolated than ever. The systemic biases he faced were not just external challenges, but internalized within the very institutions meant to uphold justice and fairness. The sense of being targeted, of being seen through a lens of suspicion and prejudice, fueled his determination to persevere. That night, as Jordan sat alone in his study, he reflected on the day's events. The unjust scrutiny and the relentless pursuit of an investigation that seemed to have ulterior motives only deepened his resolve to fight back against the systemic injustices that plagued Maplewood. He knew that the road ahead would be fraught with obstacles, but he was determined to stand firm, drawing strength from his principles and the support of those who truly believed in him. He began to strategize, outlining steps to safeguard his company's integrity while continuing to foster positive community relations. Jordan knew that maintaining his humility and professionalism was crucial, but he also recognized the need to assert his authority and defend his reputation against the mounting prejudices. The next morning, as he prepared for another day, Jordan received a call from Amara Johnson. Her voice was curt, her tone more pressing than before. Mr. Ellis, I need you to meet with me at the courthouse this afternoon. It's imperative that we discuss the recent developments in your investigation, Amara stated. Jordan felt a surge of apprehension. Meeting Amara in the courthouse was not a casual affair. It was a statement of escalating tensions and mounting pressures. I'll be there, he replied, his voice steady, despite the unease gnawing at him. As he arrived at the courthouse, Jordan was greeted by the imposing structure, its stone facade a symbol of authority and tradition. Inside, the halls buzzed with activity, the air thick with the weight of legal proceedings and the expectations of justice. Amara awaited him in a small conference room, her posture rigid, her expression unreadable. Jordan, thank you for coming, she began, gesturing for him to take a seat. I want to discuss the recent breaches in your company's security. It's crucial that we address these issues comprehensively. Jordan nodded, pulling out his tablet to access the necessary documents. I've already taken steps to enhance our security protocols. Our IT team is on high alert, and we're conducting a thorough review to identify any vulnerabilities. Amara studied him intently, her eyes probing. It's not just about the security breaches, Jordan. We need to understand the motive behind these actions. There have been indications that someone within your company might be facilitating this unauthorized access. Jordan felt a flicker of anger, his internal struggle surfacing despite his best efforts to remain composed. If that's the case, we'll do everything in our power to identify the responsible parties. Ellis Enterprises values integrity above all else. Before Jordan could respond further, the door swung open, and Inspector Marcus Davis strode in, his presence commanding and authoritative. His eyes locked onto Jordan with a mix of suspicion and determination. Amara, Mr. Ellis, Marcus greeted, his voice firm. I need to inform you that we've identified a potential insider threat within your organization. We believe someone close to your executive team is involved in the unauthorized access. Jordan felt a surge of frustration and helplessness. That's highly unlikely, Inspector. Our team is dedicated and loyal. If there is an issue, I assure you it's being handled. Inspector Davis stepped closer, his gaze unwavering. We have evidence suggesting otherwise. We need full cooperation from your side to uncover the truth. As the meeting progressed, Jordan realized that the investigation was far from straightforward. The evidence presented by the police was circumstantial, but the presence of Amara and Marcus indicated that the authorities were serious about their suspicions. The systemic biases he faced were now manifesting in the form of a targeted investigation, potentially aimed at undermining his efforts to foster positive change in Maplewood. Leaving the courthouse, Jordan felt the full weight of the systemic challenges pressing down on him. The unjust scrutiny and the potential internal corruption within his company threatened not only his professional standing, but also his personal mission to create a more inclusive and equitable community. The tension had reached a boiling point, and the stakes were higher than ever. Back at Ellis Enterprises, Jordan convened an emergency meeting with his trusted team, including Chief Financial Officer Lisa Turner and IT Director Marcus Bennett. The room was tense, the air thick with urgency as they discussed the latest developments. "We need to secure all our systems immediately," Jordan instructed, his voice calm yet commanding. "Lisa, ensure that all financial records are backed up and protected. Marcus, conduct a comprehensive security audit and identify any potential breaches." Lisa nodded, her expression serious. "Understood, Jordan. I'll coordinate with the finance team to implement additional safeguards." Marcus leaned forward, his brow furrowed. "We've already started the audit so far. We haven't found any concrete evidence of internal sabotage, but we need to dig deeper." Jordan appreciated their dedication, but couldn't shake the feeling that the investigation was more about him than the company's practices. "Keep me updated on your progress, and let's ensure that our communication remains tight to prevent any further issues." As the meeting concluded, Jordan felt a surge of determination. He refused to let systemic biases and unjust scrutiny derail his mission to lead with integrity and compassion. The conflict was escalating, but he was resolved to navigate the challenges with resilience and strategic foresight. That evening, as Jordan and Monica sat together in their modest living room, the events of the past few days weighed heavily on them. Monica reached out, placing a comforting hand on his arm. "You're handling this better than most, Jordan. Don't let it wear you down." Jordan smiled appreciatively, though his eyes held a glimmer of exhaustion. "Thank you, Monica. It's just, sometimes it feels like no matter what I do, there's always someone looking to bring me down." Monica nodded, her expression empathetic. "I know. But remember why you started this journey. You're fighting for something bigger than yourself. Something that can benefit everyone in Maplewood." As they spoke, the sound of footsteps echoed down the hallway. Jordan glanced up to see Amara Johnson approaching their front door, her expression unreadable. He felt a surge of apprehension mixed with determination. "Jordan," she began, her voice steady, yet tinged with something he couldn't quite place. "I need to speak with you. It's important." Jordan exchanged a quick glance with Monica before stepping towards the door. "Of course, Amara. Come in." Amara entered, her posture formal, yet there was a flicker of vulnerability in her eyes. She took a seat across from him, her hands clasped tightly in front of her. "Jordan, I want to assure you that this investigation is about upholding the law and ensuring transparency," she began, her tone measured. "But I also want to acknowledge the challenges you're facing. It's not easy leading a company under such intense scrutiny, especially in a town with its own set of prejudices." Jordan felt a pang of frustration mixed with a sense of resignation. "Amara, I appreciate your words, but this feels like more than just a routine investigation. It feels targeted, almost as if it's driven by something beyond mere regulatory compliance." Amara sighed, her eyes meeting his with a hint of sadness. "I understand why you might feel that way, but please know that my goal is to uncover the truth and ensure that justice is served, without bias or prejudice." Jordan leaned forward, his voice firm yet composed. "I want that too, Amara. But I need to know that the investigation is fair and objective, not influenced by personal biases or external pressures." Amara nodded slowly, her expression softening. "I can't speak for others, but I can promise you that my focus is on the facts and evidence. If there's any wrongdoing, it will be addressed appropriately." Before Jordan could respond, the door swung open abruptly, and Inspector Marcus Davis stormed in, his face flushed with anger. "Amara, we need to proceed with the investigation immediately," he barked, glaring at Jordan. "There's been a breach in the system tonight, and we need access to all records without delay." Jordan felt a surge of helplessness as Marcus and the officers began to confiscate files and access his computer systems. The meticulous efforts he had made to protect his company's integrity now seemed futile against the relentless pursuit of the authorities. As Marcus and his team worked, Amara stood by silently, her earlier composure replaced by a stern resolve. "Jordan, please cooperate fully. It's in everyone's best interest to resolve this swiftly." Jordan maintained his calm, though inside, his frustration and sense of injustice mounted. "Of course, Inspector. Let me know if there's anything specific you need." As the investigation continued into the late hours of the night, Jordan felt the true extent of the systemic biases he was up against. The unjust treatment, the constant scrutiny, and the feeling of being targeted solely based on his race and position were taking a toll on him. Yet, amidst the chaos, his resolve remained unshaken. In the dimly lit office, with papers strewn across the desk and the hum of computers working overtime, Jordan began to formulate a plan. He knew that fighting back required more than just passive cooperation. It necessitated strategic action to expose the underlying prejudices and protect his legacy. He reached out to his trusted allies, Ruby, Monica, and Officer Grant, seeking their support and guidance. Together, they began to uncover the layers of corruption and bias that had been festering beneath Maplewood's surface. The stakes were high, and the battle was far from over, but Jordan was determined to stand his ground, fighting for justice and equality, not just for himself, but for the entire community. As the night wore on, a sense of anticipation and urgency hung in the air. The conflict had reached its zenith, and the next steps Jordan took would determine the future of Ellis Enterprises and his place within Maplewood. The path ahead was fraught with danger and uncertainty, but Jordan's unwavering resolve and the support of his allies gave him the strength to face whatever challenges awaited him. Just as dawn began to break, casting a pale light through the office windows, Jordan received a message from Detective Weber. The message was brief, but ominous. "Meet me at the old mill, important information inside." His heart raced as he read the message. The old mill was a deserted location on the outskirts of town, a place shrouded in mystery and whispered rumors. It was a risk, but the possibility of uncovering crucial evidence pushed him forward. He glanced at Monica, who was asleep in the guest room, and offered a silent reassurance. The fight for justice was just beginning, and the stakes had never been higher. With determination burning in his eyes, Jordan grabbed his coat and prepared to face the next phase of his battle against the systemic injustices that threatened to tear his life apart. The morning sun began to rise, casting long shadows across Maplewood's forgotten corners, as Jordan Ellis set out towards the old mill, unaware of the pivotal revelations and life-altering decisions that awaited him. The early morning light barely pierced the dense fog enveloping Maplewood as Jordan Ellis navigated his way to the old mill. The abandoned structure stood on the town's outskirts, a relic of Maplewood's industrial past, now serving as a symbol of forgotten dreams and whispered secrets. The road leading to it was narrow and overgrown, bordered by towering pines that swayed gently in the cool breeze. As Jordan approached, the silence was almost oppressive, broken only by the distant call of a lone owl. He parked his sedan in the shadow of the mill, the engine's hum fading into the stillness. Clutching his phone tightly, Jordan glanced at the message from Detective Weber once more. "Meet me at the old mill, important information inside." The urgency in the message was palpable, and a sense of foreboding settled over him. He knew that this meeting could be the turning point in his fight against the systemic injustices threatening to dismantle everything he had built. Taking a deep breath, Jordan stepped out of his car, the gravel crunching under his sturdy shoes. He approached the dilapidated entrance, the heavy wooden door hanging ajar, creaking softly with each gust of wind. As he pushed it open, the stale air of neglect greeted him, mingling with the scent of damp earth and decaying wood. Inside, the dimly lit interior revealed remnants of the mill's former glory: rusted machinery, broken windows, and scattered debris that whispered stories of a bygone era. A figure stood near the far end of the room, partially obscured by the shadows. As Jordan moved closer, the outline became clearer, revealing Detective Carl Weber, a seasoned investigator with a reputation for uncovering hidden truths. Weber was a tall man with a stern expression, his piercing blue eyes betraying a depth of experience and a hint of weariness. "Thank you for coming, Mr. Ellis," Weber began, his voice low and urgent. "I didn't contact you without a reason. There are things you need to know about the investigation into Ellis Enterprises." Jordan nodded, his heart pounding in his chest. "I'm listening." Weber stepped forward, pulling out a folder from his jacket. "During our preliminary review, we discovered inconsistencies not just in your zoning applications, but also in the testimonies of several key witnesses. It appears there may be elements of corruption within the Maplewood Police Department itself." Jordan felt a chill run down his spine. Corruption within the very institution meant to uphold justice was a devastating revelation. "Are you saying that the investigation might be compromised?" Weber sighed, his shoulders slumping slightly. "There's evidence suggesting that some officers may have been influenced or coerced to overlook certain irregularities. It's possible that the investigation is being manipulated to protect powerful interests, including those within Ellis Enterprises." Jordan's mind raced, the implications of Weber's words sinking in. If the police were compromised, it meant that the systemic biases he had been battling were deeply entrenched, and his fight for justice was far from over. "What can we do?" he asked, determination hardening his voice. "I refuse to let corruption derail the truth." Weber handed over the folder, containing documents and evidence that painted a troubling picture. "This is what we've uncovered so far. We need to expose the corruption, but it won't be easy. Those involved have significant influence and resources. We must proceed with caution and gather undeniable evidence to bring them down." Jordan took the folder, his fingers brushing the worn edges of the papers. Each document was a piece of the puzzle, revealing layers of deceit and manipulation. "I'll do whatever it takes," he vowed, his resolve unwavering. "This isn't just about my company anymore, it's about the integrity of Maplewood and ensuring that justice is served." Weber nodded, a flicker of hope in his eyes. "I knew I could count on you. We need to work together discreetly to avoid tipping off those who are manipulating the investigation." As they discussed their next steps, the atmosphere in the old mill grew increasingly tense. The weight of their mission pressed heavily on Jordan's shoulders, but he remained composed, channeling his inner strength to face the formidable challenges ahead. The revelation of police corruption added a new layer of complexity to his battle, but it also reinforced his determination to fight for what was right. Meanwhile, back at Ellis Enterprises, the tension continued to mount. Inspector Marcus Davis was relentless in his pursuit, his demeanor growing more antagonistic with each passing day. During a routine visit to Jordan's office, Marcus confronted him with a series of pointed questions, his tone accusatory and dismissive. "Mr. Ellis, we've identified multiple discrepancies in your financial records that suggest potential embezzlement," Marcus stated, his eyes narrowing. "Care to explain these unauthorized transactions?" Jordan felt a surge of frustration, but maintained his calm exterior. "Inspector Davis, Ellis Enterprises has always maintained strict financial protocols. These discrepancies are likely the result of accounting errors, which we are in the process of rectifying." Marcus scoffed, leaning back in his chair with a dismissive gesture. "Accounting errors in a company your size, highly unlikely. We have reasons to believe that these are deliberate attempts to cover up financial misconduct." Jordan met his gaze steadily, refusing to let the inspector's aggression rattle him. "I assure you, there is no misconduct. Our financial team is dedicated to ensuring accuracy and transparency in all transactions. If there are errors, we will address them promptly." Marcus stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. "We'll be monitoring your company's financial activities closely, Mr. Ellis. Don't think this investigation is over." As Marcus left, Jordan felt the full force of the systemic biases and prejudices he was up against. The relentless scrutiny and the insinuations of wrongdoing were not just professional obstacles, but personal affronts that questioned his integrity and leadership. Yet, amidst the mounting pressure, his resolve only strengthened. That evening, Jordan convened an emergency meeting with his trusted allies, Karen Mitchell, Ruby Thompson, and Officer Lisa Grant. They gathered in the privacy of his modest home, the room filled with a sense of urgency and determination. "We're facing a coordinated attack," Jordan began, spreading the documents Weber had provided on the dining table. "Corruption within the police department is influencing the investigation against us. We need to expose this, but we have to be strategic." Karen leaned forward, her expression serious. If the police are compromised, who can we trust? We need solid evidence that can't be dismissed. Ruby nodded in agreement. We need to find out who's behind this corruption. There must be a connection between the police officers acting against you and others in power. Officer Grant, though hesitant, added, I can help, but we have to be careful. If those involved in the corruption catch wind of what we're doing, they could retaliate. Jordan took a deep breath, feeling the weight of their collective responsibility. I know it's risky, but we don't have a choice. We need to gather undeniable evidence of the corruption and protect ourselves from any retaliation. We can start by cross-referencing the documents Weber provided with our internal records to identify any patterns or connections.